Warning: viewer discretion is advised. Hi friends, welcome to another episode of Meals to Unalive For, where we talk about a true crime case and make a death row meal from scratch. I'm your host Jody Breton, and if you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. Today we're going to be talking about a man named Bruno Richard Hauptman, and he was deemed the most hated man in America. But before we talk about Richard, we need to talk about one of his victims, Charles Lindbergh. Charles had dropped out of college to be a stunt pilot, and eventually enlisted in the Army to go into flight school. It's safe to say that Charles was revolutionary when it came to aviation, and newspapers loved to report on him, calling him the Flying Fool. But Charles was best known for flying from Long Island all the way to Paris in 34 hours, which had never been done before. After this massive achievement, he becomes an aviation icon and begins touring and giving speeches. It's at the end of his tour on December 21st, 1927, that he meets Anne Spencer Morrow, who would become his wife. They would travel the world together, and on June 22nd, 1930, they would welcome their first child, Charles Lindbergh Jr. After this, they settled down. The small family moves to Hopewell, New Jersey to live out a quiet life. Less than a year later, on March 1st, 1932, at 9 p.m., baby Charles is asleep in the nursery while Anne and Charles are downstairs relaxing. A man makes a makeshift ladder to enter the nursery and kidnap baby Charles. He escapes into the night, leaving the broken ladder, foot impressions in the mud, and a ransom note. The note reads, "Dear sir, have $50,000 ready, $25,000 in $20 bills, $15,000 in $10 bills, and $10,000 in $5 bills. After 2 to 4 days, we will inform you where to deliver the money." By 10 p.m., the baby's nanny discovers that the baby is missing. She alerts the parents, and they all call the authorities. By midnight, authorities and reporters are on scene where the manhunt for the kidnapper begins. The newspaper calls it the crime of the century. Just 3 days after the crime is committed, the Lindberghs receive a new ransom note. The note stated, "Dear sir, we have warned you not to make anything public or notify the police. Now you have to take the consequences. Means we will have to hold the baby until everything is quiet. We cannot make any appointments now. We know very well what it means to us. It is really necessary to make a world affair out of this, or to get your baby back as soon as possible to settle this affair, and a quick way will be better for both. Don't be afraid about the baby. Keeping care of us day and night. We also feed him according to the diet. We are interested to send him back in good health, and ransom was made originally for $50,000. But now we have to take another person to it and probably have to keep the baby for longer times than we expected. So the amount will be $70,000. $20,000 in $50 bills, $25,000 in 20 bills, $15,000 in $10 bills, and $10,000 in $5 bills. Do not mark any of the bills. We will inform you later where to deliver the money. But we will not do so until the police is out of the case and the papers are quiet. The kidnapping was prepared for years ago, so we prepared for everything." And if you guys are finding this a little confusing to follow and that it is poorly written, that's because it is. There's tons of misspellings and it's very poorly written, so it's very apparent that whoever wrote these ransom notes, English was not their first language, so that was a huge clue to authorities. Also, in today's money, $70,000 would equal to be about $1 million today. While this is all going on, retired Principal John Condon volunteered to act as the intermediary between the family and the kidnapper. This is when the third ransom note was secured. "Dear sir, Mr. Condon may act as the go-between. You may give him the $70,000 in one packet. We have notified you already in what kind of bills. We warn you not to set any traps in any way. If you or someone else will notify the police, there will be a further delay. After we have the money in hand, we will tell you where to find your boy. You may have an airplane ready about 150 miles away. But before telling you the address, a delay of 8 hours will be between. On March 12th, Dr. Condon received an anonymous telephone call and another note. The note was given by a taxi driver named Joseph Perrone, who claimed that the note was given to him by a stranger. The fifth note said, "We trust you, but we will not come into your home. It is too dangerous. Even you cannot know if police or Secret Service is watching you. Follow the instructions." Here, 200 feet from the last station, on the left side is an empty Frankfurter station with a big open porch around. You will find a note in the center of the porch underneath a stone. The note will tell you where to find us. This kind of back and forth continued for over a month, and in total there were 13 notes written by the kidnappers. Now I'll save you the details of reading all 13. Most of it is just going back and forth and a lot of promises and threats. Eventually, Mr. Condon does meet with a man named John. He gives the man the money, and the man says that they can find the baby on a boat called the Nellie near Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. But unfortunately, the baby and the boat were never found. 1 year after the kidnapping, the baby was found deceased less than 5 miles away from the home. The body was heavily decomposed, but there were skull bruises indicating trauma to the head, which is the assumed cause of death. Soon after the baby is found, suspicion is put on Violet Sharp, which is one of the baby's nannies. Her alibi kept changing, and she had an unwillingness to cooperate with police, and it made them suspicious. Violet was asked to come back for a second interview with the details of her bank account, but she unalived herself before she could be interviewed again. The FBI later ruled out her involvement after discovering that she had an airtight alibi, so police were back to square one. And Mr. Condon's description of the so-called John wasn't very helpful without other clues. So on March 2nd, 1932, FBI Director Edgar Hoover announces the full backing of all resources to help find the murderer. With all of these resources at their disposal, they call in experts from all over. Handwriting specialists determine that the writer is of German nationality. They even analyze the letter and conclude that whoever had made the letter had access to multiple kinds of wood and carpentry tools. Finally, on September 18th, 1934, a bank teller calls police saying that a man was trying to cash a $10 gold certificate that matches the money from the ransom. The police then track the money to a gas station where the attendant provides a license plate number. The license plate is registered to a Bruno Richard Hauptman, who is a carpenter. Richard was born in Germany November 26, 1899. He was a machine gunner for World War I at 19. During his service, he was gassed and wounded, so he was discharged. After Richard and a war buddy, Fritz Petzold, were discharged from the military, they went on a petty crime spree. They stole 300 marks and a silver watch from a mayor's home. A few nights later, they stole 2,000 marks and security, 200 in cash, and a gold watch from a leather tavern. And finally, they robbed 2 women of their food and food ration cards. By the end of March 1919, the duo had been arrested for the 4 crimes. Richard was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but was paroled in March of 1923. Shortly after being paroled, Richard was once again arrested for trying to sell stolen leather belts. While in jail, he noticed an open gate, so he ditched his prison clothes at the door and left a note that said, "Best wishes to the police." Richard then decides that he wants to immigrate to America, so he attempts to stow away on board the SS George Washington, but he is discovered when the ship reaches Ellis Island and he is sent back to Germany. He tries again on the same ship, but is discovered before the ship even takes off. Finally, he tries a third time and makes it into America illegally in November 1923, a few days before his birthday. In January 1924, Richard meets Anna Schofer, another German immigrant, Although Anna was here legally, and the two quickly fall in love, and in October 10th, 1925, the couple was married. The couple have one child together, a boy named Manfred Richard Hauptman, on November 3rd, 1933. After Richard was arrested, police searched his home where they found $14,600 in gold certificates, and they were all from the Lindbergh ransom. Richard said that the money wasn't his, but his stock market partner, Isidore Fisk. He said Fisk left him with the shoebox that contained the money. The rest of the cash was never found, although part of it was found during a renovation of a Bronx high school in the 1970s. Richard stuck to his story that the money was Isidore Fisk's, and unfortunately, Fisk had died of tuberculosis while sailing back to Germany. However, Fisk did pay for his ticket with gold certificates to go back to Germany. Police also found Mr. Condon's phone number written on Richard's closet door and a board matching the wood on the ladder that was left against the Lindbergh home. Richard's trial started January 2nd, 1935. During his trial, Mr. Condon identified Richard as the kidnapper John he met at the cemetery, but previously said that Richard wasn't the man during a lineup. Regardless of the mishap, on February 13th, Bruno Richard Hauptman was found guilty and sentenced to death. A reporter asked him if he was afraid to go to the electric chair, and he said, "You can imagine how I feel when I think of my wife and child, but I have no fear for myself because I know that I am innocent. If I have to go to the chair in the end, I will go like a man and like an innocent man." Richard appeals all of these rulings, but it's all in vain, and eventually he is executed April 3rd, 1936. Richard's last meal was chicken, buttered peas, French fries, olives, celery, cherries, and a slice of cake. For this last meal, I'm going to rate it maybe a 5 out of 10. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing particularly special about it either, so I'm going to meet somewhere in the middle. This story was definitely a wild ride. I felt so sorry for the Lindbergh family. Do you guys think that Bruno Richard Hauptman did it? Let me know in the comments. And as usual, guys, if you guys enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and share. Hopefully, I will see you guys on the dissection of this case. If not, I will see you next week when we're covering yet another case. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.